Boy, the sad part about these dark times that we're living in, they don't want to hear the truth. They can actually care less for the truth. But before we get into today's hot video, you guys, I want to tell you guys that I love y'all, man, and I wish the best in all you guys' life. I don't care where you're from, what your age is, and most importantly, don't see color. Don't care what your skin color is. We're all brothers and sisters. One race, the human race. I encourage you to spread that love, man. Because we're living in some dark times, you guys. But let's jump straight into this one. Jim Crow. And if you go and do, like I said, I do a lot of research before I just get on here yapping and laughing and talking with you guys and keeping it real and spreading the truth. I do a lot of research, man. You know, and that's where I've gotten here today, because I've done a lot of research, you know, a lot of just analyzing, seeing what's actually going on in this dark world that we live in, y'all. And if you go on Twitter, it's Facebook, or just these social media platforms, and you see how shook and how they spin this thing around out of context, it's disgusting, man. And to see how they talk about this man's family, Brian Donalds, who a lot of you guys say could be the VP, you know, and he's in our top 3. But the way they talk about this man, it's sad how they took it out of context. Then they brought up his white wife. I mean, it's just disgusting. Of the race bait and all the race card pulling the race, it's disgusting. It's just crap, y'all. It is crap, man. And that's all they pulled is the race card. But we're gonna pull this video up, and I want to send a huge shout out to my brother Joseph for bringing it to my attention. But we did a previous video with Joyless Reed with her Trump haircut. That Trump haircut, that wig, whatever it is. Yeah, we did a video on that in our previous video. But now we got old Al Sharpton. Boy. Let's go and jump straight in this. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And again, God bless all you and your families. And again, we don't care what you look like, what you smell like, what color your skin is. We don't see color on this channel, man. Everybody is loved and accepted, and I encourage you to spread that love in these dark times, y'all. We're living in some dark times, y'all. Let's go and jump straight in.
You and I had mutual friends. People say you're a straight shooter. I against black people. You weren't just talking about the era of Dwight Eisenhower and Harry Truman. You named Jim Crow. There's only one way you could deal with Jim Crow, and that's by race. I mean, look, you and I had mutual friends. People say you're a straight shooter. We may disagree on politics. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. But look, you were born in Brooklyn. You went down into the South, went to Florida State. You have an interracial marriage. You're the congressman of a district that's not a black district. I mean, how can you even live with yourself acting like Jim Crow was a good era or better era for blacks? What happened to you?
Okay, that's real cute. That's real cute. I did not say that. And I'm not going to sit here and have to insinuate that against you. Because
shut him down, Brian. Shut him down, Brian. Shut him down. Shut him down right now, and I'm here for it. Put your foot down. It's sad how they spin things and take it out of context, man. You know? Drag everybody else through the mud. And drag the former president through the mud.
Right now, you're lying about what I said. I did say Jim Crow. I did reference it 3 times. That's not to say that it was better. I never said that. Those words never came out of my mouth. When are you going to get that through your skull and everybody else's skull? I never said that. And the difference between me and a lot of other Republicans, I'm not going to sit here.
You said it was better for us.
I'm not going to let you
under Jim Crow to bring families together. Did you say that?
Hakeem Jeffries was lying. The Biden campaign was lying.
All right.
Go look at my words.
Well,
go look at my words.
All right. People can look at your words.
Jim Crow was better? No, I did not.
You said
I did not
under
say Jim Crow was better.
I never said it was good.
I did not have nostalgia. I never said any of those things. I was talking about black families and black family marriage rates during that time. And the
All right, then what did Jim Crow do to contribute to black families?
I'm not talking. Oh my gosh!
You said that you said under Jim Crow, black families. So explain to me what Jim Crow did to help black families.
The marriage rates during the Jim Crow era were higher for black families
because
up until the point
Crow?
of the Great Society. I did not say that. I said they were. And this is the problem. Because you're trying to say that I said because of Jim Crow marriages were at a higher rate. I did not say that. I said during. I said during.
But why
I guess
did
we
you
can't refer to
use
time
Jim Crow?
periods
Jim
then,
Crow
Reverend.
was
That
a
don't make
race
no
law.
sense.
I tried to tell you, Byron, there's no point whatsoever in debating or arguing with these clowns, okay? Because they're not interested in the truth. They are not honest actors, okay? One of the
facts. Same thing we've been saying, you guys. And make sure y'all go check out my brother down below in the description box, man. He does an amazing job as well, breaking all of this down. He has some very amazing points that we all can agree on. And again, that's one reason why I love bringing him on the show.
One of the things that, again, is extremely frustrating to me, guys, doing this whole fake outrage about Byron Donalds and his comments about Jim Crow is that clearly, listening to the video and reading his actual quote, he said nothing about Jim Crow being better for black people, but it has been spun in the mainstream liberal media because they're essentially an arm of the Democrat Party in order to attack Byron Donalds as a black Republican who sold out to Trump. Ultimately, this really is an attack on Trump, and this is part of the reason why I really do think that Byron Donalds should stop doing these interviews, but I understand where he's coming from. He knows that he's correct. He knows that they're lying. And he's doing the interviews in order to defend himself, okay? He wants to defend himself. He's standing up to these propagandists, and I actually commend him for that. I just don't think that there's a point to it anymore because the liberal media, they're going to continue to say that he said something that he didn't say, and only stupid people would believe the mainstream liberal media and their narrative at this point. So it is what it is, okay? But I'm so serious. When the Democrats and this whole situation just proves that they really believe that black people are the dumbest people on the planet, right? Because you have to be a dummy to fall for this propaganda from the mainstream liberal media. And I think this is part of the reason why you're seeing black people move away from the Democrat Party, because it's getting to the point now where it's just offensive, right? These people are reality deniers, okay? They deny the reality of the economy, the reality of the border, the reality of crime, the reality that black families being together is actually a good thing, right? It doesn't matter what era we're in, okay? But that doesn't mean Jim Crow was a good thing. It just means that black families being together is a good thing, period. They just deny all these things, okay? And again, at some point, there is no point to engaging with these individuals because they're not really trying to have an honest conversation, right? But I'm not going to talk about that topic anymore. We beat that topic to death. I'm actually going to talk about a new topic here that Byron Donalds is discussing with Al Sharpton later on in this interview, which is about police reform and the fact that Trump did not support the George Floyd movement, right? And Al Sharpton is going to confront Byron Donalds on why Trump didn't want to get on board with the defund the police movement that Democrats were endorsing at the time. And Byron Donalds is going to humiliate Al Sharpton, who clearly does not know what he's talking about in this segment. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Just
they never
this
know what they're
week,
talking about.
That he might seek retribution against political enemies of if he's elected president. He also tried to link his legal problems to the injustices African Americans have suffered at the hand of our legal system. Why should black Americans believe that Trump is serious about criminal justice reform when he only seems concerned about it when it applied to him? You know the record. You're from Brooklyn, what he did around the Central Park case. You know the record that he was president when George Floyd was killed by police. He said nothing, had protesters move from in front of a church, made a speech denouncing the protesters. He has no problem talking about locking up his political opponents or homeless or asylum seekers, but he now wants to act like he's a victim of something. What is your response to that, Congressman?
Okay, so before Byron Donalds gets into this, the obvious rebuttal, okay, to Al Sharpton saying that, well, Trump's not serious about criminal justice reform, which again, let's be honest here. It's a great thing that Trump is not serious about criminal justice reform because that would mean being progressive on criminal justice reform, and progressive criminal justice reform is the reason why these liberal cities have fallen off of a cliff, right? This is the reason why these cities are full of crime and chaos. This is the reason why these cities are being run by criminals. So it's a good thing that he's not on board with that, but Trump was on board with, I would define as moderate and common sense criminal justice reform when it comes to rolling back some of the harsh penalties that were implemented as a result of Joe Biden's crime bill with the First Step Act, right? So to say that, well, Trump is not serious about criminal justice reform, again, there's more nuances to that, right? Because I think it's a good thing that he doesn't agree with progressive criminal justice reform. But the First Step Act is evidence that Trump is open to some form of criminal justice reform. He's just not open to progressivism to the point where it becomes lawless, right? Which is what all of these people support.
Well, first of all, during the Trump presidency, he also signed into law reforms to criminal justice reform, the First Step Back, which actually helped get a lot of people released who were imprisoned under the 94 crime bill that was authored by Joe Biden. One of the worst pieces of crime legislation that's really impacted a lot of people in the black community.
You and I agree on the 94 crime bill. I marched on it, and Joe Biden has said that it went too far. But Donald
Trump. So again, why don't you ever hold Joe Biden accountable for the crime bill and the drug bill? Why don't you ever hold Joe Biden accountable for the so-called systemic racism that he's responsible for, right? Every time these people talk about systemic racism or they name some policy, past policy, because again, a lot of this stuff is not even on the books anymore they're talking about. Okay, none of these people actually went through this stuff or suffered from any of this stuff that they're boo-hoo-on and cry about. But for example, when they talk about redlining, when they talk about, again, the crime bill and stuff like that, all that is a result of Democrats, right? The redlining policy came under the New Deal. That was FDR. FDR is a god in the Democrat Party, right? That's who Joe Biden wants to be, okay? That's who Biden tried to model his presidency after, FDR. I mean, the Democrats have legislation called the Green New Deal. This is how much they look up to FDR. But FDR is the one that is responsible for redlining. One of the main things they bring up as a reason for why there's a significant wealth gap between blacks and whites. Redlining. They're always talking about redlining. Okay, well, again, why is it that you guys worship FDR? Who's responsible for that? Why is it that you guys are lining up and voting for Joe Biden, who's responsible for the drug bill, the crime bill, all of these disparities that you guys boo-hoo-on and cry about so much? You guys turn around and vote for the people and worship the people that are responsible for doing it. Again, it doesn't make sense to me at all.
Trump has not dealt with his own record of discrimination. If you're talking about the two candidates, Donald Trump, unlike Biden, who talked about how the crime bill did go too far, Donald Trump has not dealt with his discrimination that he was sued by the Justice Department. And
no, he actually has dealt with it because, one, Trump was not proven to have done anything wrong. He settled that lawsuit with the DOJ without having to admit that he did anything wrong. In fact, Trump didn't even want to settle the lawsuit because in his mind, he's like, listen, we just don't want people living here who are on welfare, whether they're black, white, doesn't matter who they are. If they're on welfare, we don't want to turn our apartments into the projects, right? Into the ghetto. Okay? This is the argument that Trump was making. Trump actually felt like he was not wrong. But again, in some cases, unfortunately, it's just not worth the headache of trying to drag out a case, especially when you're dealing with the government. It's just easier just to settle and keep it moving. Trump ultimately settled without having to admit any wrongdoing. In fact, if you ask him today, he'll tell you, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't discriminate against anybody except people who were on welfare. We didn't want welfare recipients in our apartments. It is what it is. You may say that's right or wrong, but to, again, call it racial discrimination, to say that it's proven that Trump was racially discriminated, it's not proven. It has not been proven. That lawsuit was settled. Trump did not admit to doing anything wrong. Okay, so again, if you're going to continue to bring it up and to talk about it, then you need to bring up the full context of what happened during that situation. But again, they never do that. They just point it out as if, people can't be sued for anything, right? I can sue anybody for anything. That doesn't mean that you're actually guilty. Doesn't mean that you're actually responsible or liable for the things I'm suing you for. It just means I'm suing you for. I'm accusing you of something. The Justice Department accused him of something. But again, Trump never actually was found guilty or liable for any of the things that he was accused of. And he settled. He settled without having to admit wrongdoing. Those are the facts.
Housing, what he did with Central Park 5, what he's done in various race cases. And
yeah, he was upset about what happened during the Central Park 5, like everybody else in that city was upset with the crime and all the chaos going on in that city. And that was just an extension of it. And Trump, like many others at the time, wanted law and order. Now, again, these guys were found guilty, okay, at the time. Later, their convictions were overturned based off DNA evidence in which this one guy admitted that, hey, I'm the one that did it. DNA confirmed it. The other 5 guys were exonerated, and ultimately they won their civil lawsuit, right? All the things were corrected. And these people still going on and on and on about things that, again, have already been solved and settled that really are not clear, overt examples of racism. Nothing that these people are bringing up are actually really clear, overt examples of racism at all. But again, they want to hang this over Trump's head as if he passed actual laws, right? Joe Biden has passed laws that these people have stated are racist, but yet they question Trump more than Biden. But Trump has not passed any laws the way that Biden has passed that are clearly and overtly racist. In fact, Trump has done numerous things that disproportionately benefit black people, like HBCU funding, like opportunity zones, like the First Step Act.
Mention that.
Like having an economy that incentivizes a lot of black people and as well as a lot of other people in this country to get off the welfare system, that has increased household income for black people, increased home ownership for black people. All these things that Trump has done under his presidency that have benefited black, he doesn't get credit for. So it's really damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Never.
At this point. Trump does all these things. He has not put any laws on the books like Joe Biden's crime bill or FDR's New Deal with redlining, but yet they treat Trump much worse than they treat Biden or an FDR, right? Democrats who are actually responsible for all these things they boohoo, whine, and cry about so much. It's fascinating. This is why I say these people are not honest actors, okay? They're propagandists. Because an honest actor would actually be more concerned about Biden's record. An honest actor would be more concerned about Democrats and their records when it comes to this stuff. Not Trump. But here we are.
Explain as president what he did with George Floyd. You were in Congress.
What did he do with George Floyd? He didn't do anything with George Floyd. What are you talking
exactly
about?
Right.
What did he do against it? He did not do anything. The only thing he said is that riots in America do need to stop. Well, first of all, let's talk about that legislation, because there were actually
policing bill that
there were two bills that were going through Congress at the time. The bill that could have went through and passed was the one by Senator Tim Scott, and the only difference between that bill and the bill that was being moved by my Democrat colleagues is because my Democrat colleagues wanted to get rid of qualified immunity. Right. That was the only difference in the bill. Local law enforcement universally said, if you get rid of qualified immunity, you're going to have less officers on the streets. And so the Democrats did not want that bill to go forward. I believe Nancy Pelosi was speaker at the time, and that's why that bill could not get through the House.
They did not vote for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And did you vote for it, you in Congress?
Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Byron Donalds is literally explaining to him how Trump supported, Republicans supported police reform doing George Floyd, right? The only difference is that, hey, we didn't have qualified immunity in our package. So clearly Republicans were on board with doing something about what is really not a problem, in my opinion. It's not a top 10 issue. I don't think police brutality is a top 10 issue that we need to worry about in this country, especially right now, right? Considering how crime is out of control in these cities. It's not. Okay, I know some people argue with me and say, oh, no, you know, police are bad and all that. Okay, fine. But I'm telling you, you don't want to live in a world where police are easily sued with civil lawsuits for doing their jobs. And then you have police that don't want to sign up to be police officers. I've done stories about this. It's already happening today as a result of the defund the police movement and the demonization of police. The response times for police showing up when crimes are committed are at record highs, right? And
salute to all our first responders, our law enforcement on the channel. There's tons of you guys over here. We love you. We thank you. For the ones that make the ultimate sacrifice. We got a lot of amazing people on the channel, man. We're going to keep it real, y'all. Salute to our veterans. But this is what's going on. This is what's going on, y'all. Can't run from it. Can't hide from it. And again, they don't want to hear the truth and they don't care for the truth. Then just take it and spin it out of context. It's ridiculous.
In some municipalities, it takes as long as an hour for cops to show up. At that point, there's no reason to have police. And you wonder why crime is out of control, why crime has been underreported. These cities are lawless, partly because nobody wants to be a police officer anymore. So when you talk about trying to support legislation that disincentivizes police from signing up to do a job that is pivotal to having a society that is orderly, where rules are followed, where laws are adhered to, yeah, I mean, I don't blame Republicans or Trump for not wanting to get on board with that. But Republicans did submit a bill to enact police reform. Democrats didn't want to do it. And Al Sharpton is sitting here pretending like, well, you guys didn't really support police reform or doing anything about what happened to George Floyd because you didn't support the Democrats and their extremism, their extreme bill, right? You didn't support the George Floyd policing bill. So therefore, you didn't support it, police reform at all. Again, it's maddening. It really is.
I wasn't in Congress at the time when that occurred, but I will tell you
Did you
that the reason I was not in Congress, I got in 2020.
Did you?
No, because that bill would have gotten rid of qualified immunity. And getting rid of qualified immunity would have meant less officers on the street, which is bad for public safety.
So the only way you would have supported a bill to hold police accountable is if police would not be individually accountable? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because if you most police officers make $60,000 to $70,000 a year. If they are not individually liable in civil court, how many people are going to sign up to be police officers? With all the millions of encounters they go through every single year, people aren't going to do that. That's not my words. That's the words of officers I talk to.
Maybe if they knew they were liable, they would behave differently.
The vast majority of officers do not do that. The vast majority of officers are good public servants. They serve our communities every single day. You know this, Al.
The vast majority of people, congressmen, don't commit crimes, but that doesn't mean we don't need laws. Let me go to this one.
But qualified immunity is a bad solution. It would not have been good. It would have not been good.
And Donald Trump opposed it and did not come with any police reform at all. Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's go
Tim
to
Scott
her.
had a bill that
what police reform
Tim Scott
bill
had a bill that Donald Trump supported.
What
go back
was
to the
police
Tim Scott bill, which was moving through the Senate. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't hear it in the House.
What was the police reform bill that happened during George Floyd that Donald Trump, as president of the United States, when George Floyd was killed, what did he support for police reform? Donald Trump.
At the time, Donald Trump was supporting the Tim Scott measure that could not get a hearing in the House because Nancy Pelosi wouldn't allow it. You can have Senator Scott on. He'll tell you about it. I'm quite sure he will.
I met with Senator Scott. And what I'm saying to you is, did Donald Trump then say, we'll do this about police reform? This is wrong what happened to George
would not
Floyd?
let it through the House. She was speaker. You should ask Nancy why she didn't put it on the floor.
No, I'm asking you then, what was the Republican bill around reform?
He just told you, guy. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why having conversations with these people,
it's pointless.
It's just a pointless activity.
Pointless.
Because he's not listening. Byron Donalds just told him, look, the Senate Republicans had a police reform bill, Tim Scott's police reform bill. Here you guys go. You can see it on the screen. Trump announced support for that bill.
Again, right here. But it's pointless, y'all. It is pointless. How many times have we seen this?
Byron Donalds told him and just outlined what Republicans were pushing at the time in response to what happened to George Floyd. But yet this guy, this idiot, continues to ask the same question that this man just answered because he's not listening, right? He's not listening. He does not care about what comes out of Byron Donalds' mouth. All he cares about is trying to get Byron Donalds with a gotcha. Okay, all he cares about is trying to talk over Byron Donalds and to try to make Byron Donalds seem like a not credible black person, as if he's somebody working against black people, right? And again, I'm not even one of these people that's like, you know, we need police reform, right? Again, I don't even think that's a top 10 issue. So it's not even like I'm clapping or happy that Republicans put forward a police reform bill, but they did. And again, Al Sharpton here is dumb. Apparently he's ignorant to what Republicans were pushing for at that time, and he's trying to pretend like Trump or the Republicans never supported any type of police reform when they did. Democrats blocked it. They didn't want the Republicans to get a win on police reform going into the election. But instead of dealing with that fact that Democrats did not want to get on board with the Republican solution, despite the Republicans having the majority in the Senate, and President Trump's in the White House, and these people claim that police reform is so necessary, policing so bad, it's such a big problem, systemic racism. Instead of addressing the solution, they decided, nah, we're not going to do it because, again, we don't want to give Republicans the win before going into the election. Again, it's frustrating. Because again, these people aren't doing these interviews in an honest way. This is not an honest debate. This guy's not even listening at all.
They never listen.
And I just told you, it was the Tim Scott. I just told you the bill. It's the Tim Scott bill. And
when
you
Donald
keep asking
Trump
the same
went
question,
in front of that church and stood up there with the Bible, he did not tout any reform bill at all. End of story. And you and I both know that.
I'm sorry. So the only bills that matter, the only bills that matter are the ones that actually have a name that a president cites, not the actual legislation that's moving through Congress.
He could have named the bill. He was president of the United States.
You already know that's a ridiculous standard.
Well, then why didn't if Tim Scott's was the bill, then why didn't the president come out and call on the Congress and the country to rally around that bill? He said nothing. You know it, and I know it.
First of all, I don't know. Donald Trump talks a lot. You should ask him that question. I will tell you that Nancy Pelosi did not let that bill come up in the House. She was speaker. Ask her.
All right, let me ask you this then.
Wow. Again, this is humiliating for Al Sharpton. To again, any educated person, just like when it comes to the Jim Crow conversation,
the shit show.
I hope people can see through this, right? I really do. I hope people can see through this nonsense from these people. They really do think that the average person is dumb. They really believe black people are dumb because that is who these conversations are directed towards. It's directed towards black people. And they believe that you're so dumb that they can just flat out deny reality, just deny facts about the black family under Jim Crow, right? And how, marriage rates were higher, which is just a fact. Okay.
They don't want to hear the facts. They could care less about the facts.
They come out here and now they're denying that the Republicans were pushing for a police reform bill and that Trump had supported it, even though, this is established fact that Republicans were pushing for it and Trump supported it. They just deny, it didn't happen. He didn't support that because, Trump didn't get on his knee like Nancy Pelosi and worship George Floyd like the Democrats and half the country was doing at the time. Oh, that means that he's a racist, right? He didn't support anything when it comes to trying to solve policing, which again, I think is a very childish way of looking at the issue of policing. You're never going to solve policing, especially in a country where you have Second Amendment rights. There are going to be pros and cons. There's always going to be, trade-offs when it comes to having more police versus less police. Because ultimately, the job of policing is a hard job, and you have to make split-second decisions that can determine the difference between life and death for the police officer or for the suspect. And in situations like that, officers are going to make mistakes. It is what it is. It's going to happen. The best way to avoid being on the wrong end of a mistake, don't commit crimes, especially don't commit violent crimes, right? Or don't have a history of committing crimes, right? And if you happen to have a run-in with police anyways, like being pulled over, okay, getting arrested for whatever reason, don't resist arrest and, try to remain calm and treat the officer with respect and have your day in court if you feel like your rights were violated. It's really that simple.
And how long we've been saying that, y'all? We've been saying it when we were reacting to those, those police footages, the police cams, and we come in with a fair judgment every time, man, from both sides. And again, a lot of things that we've seen happen and take place that have hit the social media and have went viral, it all could have been prevented. A lot of it.
And officers that do clearly violate people's constitutional rights, they can be held criminally liable if they do something wrong. We've seen it.
And we have seen it plenty of times. But we've also seen on the other side where all you had to do was be respectful. Apply, We've seen it plenty of times, y'all, of both sides being wrong.
And it happened. It has happened in this country. But again, the best way to avoid being on the wrong side of a mistake is to not live a life of crime. If you don't do that, the chance of you being killed by a police officer is basically non-existent, okay, for a vast majority of society. Police brutality really concerns career criminals more so than anybody else. And again, I'm not saying that officers that do wrong things, even when they violate the constitutional rights of criminals, shouldn't be held accountable. What I am saying, though, is that I don't think that this issue is an issue that we really should be concerned about all that much, especially considering how we live in a time where we need more police officers, not less, okay? We need less demonization of police because, again, a lot of these cities are falling apart because of the fact that you don't have enough police officers on the streets. And we've seen the consequences of when officers quit en masse, right? We're seeing that happen right now. So, again, I think Al Sharpton humiliated himself in this interview because instead of actually listening to Byron Donalds, he really was not concerned with that. He was concerned with pushing his agenda. And it became obvious that he's not even listening to Byron Donalds, and he just sounds stupid, right? Like an ignorant person that didn't do his research before doing this interview. So,
yep, they don't want to hear the facts. They could care less about the facts. But in these dark times, you guys, I'm wishing the best in all you guys' life, man. Your family's life, your kids' life, man. Because we are living in some dark times, you guys. Dark times. Let me know what y'all think about this down below. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And God bless all you and your family. I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all.